There is a particular kind of silence that doesn't feel empty. It feels heavy. Like something was supposed to be there, sound, warmth, life, and someone took it away without warning. That kind of silence doesn't just sit in a room. It sits in your chest. Kang Junho knew that silence well. He'd grown up in boardrooms full of it, rooms where people said everything except what they meant, where every smile had a price tag hidden behind it, where even his own father's affection came wrapped in expectation. But standing in a dark, stripped-out shopfront in a Hongdae alley at 9 o'clock on a Thursday evening, surrounded by 3 black luxury SUVs, 2 gift boxes on the backseat, and 4 guards who didn't know where to look, this silence was different. This one hurt. He pressed one hand flat against the cold glass of the shop window and stared inside. No tables set. No chalkboard menu leaning against the wall with her handwriting on it, that slightly uneven handwriting she never seemed bothered to fix. No warm light spilling from the kitchen at the back. No sound of Afrobeats drifting softly from a Bluetooth speaker that had clearly seen better days. No smell of food. No her. His jaw tightened. Behind him, he heard Tai clear his throat quietly, the way Tai always did when he had something to say but was waiting for permission. Junho didn't turn around. Not yet. Because if he turned around now and saw the convoy his father had sent, the matching black SUVs, the family aide standing stiffly beside the second car holding a gift like this was a photo opportunity, he would have to feel all of it at once. The embarrassment. The irony. The weight of 5 lost days. So he stood there one more second. Hand on cold glass. Eyes on an empty room. How did it come to this? My amazing viewers, before we go back to the beginning of this story, if you're already feeling something, wait until you hear how we got here. If you enjoy stories like this, emotional, real, and completely unforgettable, please like this video, share it with someone who loves a good story, drop a comment below, and subscribe so you never miss what comes next. Now, let's go back to where it all started. Atlanta, Georgia was loud in a way that felt like love. Zara Collins had grown up in that loudness, the sound of her grandmother's gospel music bleeding through thin apartment walls every Sunday morning, the sizzle of cast iron on a gas stove, the particular chaos of a small home where everyone was always either cooking, eating, or arguing about food. Her grandmother used to say that a woman who could cook could survive anything. Zara had smiled at that as a child without truly understanding it. She understood it now. She had come to Seoul 2 years ago on a full university scholarship, international business, a dream her father had quietly funded with years of extra shifts and careful savings. Marcus Collins had not been a wealthy man. But he had been a deliberate one. Every decision he made had his children somewhere in the middle of it. When Zara landed at Incheon Airport for the first time, bag over her shoulder, acceptance letter folded in her jacket pocket, she had called him from the arrivals hall. "Daddy. I'm here. I know you are, baby. I can hear it in your voice. I'm scared." "Good. Scared means you're paying attention." She had laughed. He had laughed. And then he told her he was proud of her, not for the scholarship, not for the grades, just proud of her. The way only fathers who truly see their daughters can say it. 8 months later, Marcus Collins had a stroke in his kitchen on a Wednesday afternoon. By Friday, he was gone. Zara got the call at 2 in the morning Seoul time. She sat on the floor of her dormitory room in the dark and didn't move for a very long time. She flew home for the funeral. She watched her mother, Diana, hold herself together with a kind of quiet strength that broke Zara's heart more than tears would have. She watched her younger brother, Caleb, 14 years old, trying to be the man of the house in a way that no 14-year-old should have to try, carry chairs and shake hands with relatives he barely knew. And she did the math. Her scholarship covered tuition. But the supplemental support her father had been sending, the money that covered her rent, her food, the small things that kept a person functional in a foreign city, that was gone. Her mother was now a single parent. Caleb still had 4 years of high school, and after that, his own dreams that would need funding. She could not go home and become another weight on Diana Collins's shoulders. She couldn't. She flew back to Seoul with a decision already made and a grief she had packed somewhere deep and quiet so she could keep moving. She withdrew from the university at the start of the next semester. She did not tell her mother the full truth, only that she was taking a break to work and save. Diana had protested. Zara had been gentle and immovable. "Mom, I'm okay. I promise. I just need to work for a while." She found the shop space in Hongdae through a notice posted on a community board, a small former bubble tea shop, narrow and modest, with a kitchen at the back that needed cleaning but had good equipment. The rent was steep for what it was. She negotiated it down as far as the landlord, Mr. Bae, would allow, which was not very far because Mr. Bae was a man who had never in his life given anyone more than he had to. She scrubbed that kitchen herself. She sourced ingredients across 3 different Seoul markets. She wrote a menu on a chalkboard in slightly uneven handwriting and propped it against the wall outside. Seoul food. American Southern. Bold seasoning, slow cooking, food that didn't apologize for how much flavor it carried. Seoul had never tasted anything like it. Her first week, she had 6 customers. Her second week, word started to travel, quietly, the way good things move, person to person. "You have to try this place in Hongdae. I don't know how to explain it, just go." By her third week, she had a small but loyal crowd of regulars who came not just for the food but for the feeling of the place, the music, the warmth, the way Zara moved through her kitchen like someone who had found the one room in the world that was entirely hers. She sent money home at the end of every month. Not much, never as much as she wanted. But enough to tell her mother without words, "I'm standing. Don't worry about me." She worried constantly. About rent. About Mr. Bae's tight-lipped monthly visits. About whether she could stretch her supplies another week. About Caleb's school fees. About her mother's voice going a little more tired each time they called. But inside that kitchen, inside the heat and the sound and the smell of food coming alive under her hands, Zara Collins was completely, undeniably, herself. And that was the one thing nobody could take from her. Not yet. Kang Junho did not have problems in the way most 21-year-olds had problems. He didn't worry about tuition. He didn't worry about rent. He didn't worry about whether his card would decline at a restaurant or whether his shoes were too worn for the occasion. The kind of problems that kept most people up at night had been surgically removed from his life before he was old enough to know they existed. What Kang Junho had instead was a different kind of problem. Quieter. Harder to name. And in some ways, worse. He was invisible. Not in the way that lonely people are invisible, unseen, overlooked, passed over. Junho was invisible in the opposite direction. Nobody ever saw him. They saw Kang Group. They saw the succession. They saw the apartments, the shares, the family name pressed into every corner of Seoul's business landscape like a seal on official documents. They saw his father's empire and they assumed, correctly, that Junho was standing directly in line to inherit all of it. Women especially. He had known this since he was 17 and a girl in his class had spent 4 months building what felt like a genuine friendship with him, laughing at his actual jokes, texting him about nothing, sitting beside him at lunch just to sit beside him, before he overheard her telling a friend in the school corridor that she was working on the Kang boy because her family's company needed an investment connection. He had never mentioned it to her. He had simply stepped back, gone quiet, and filed the information away in a part of himself he rarely opened. By 21, that file was thick. There had been others. Different approaches, same architecture. Some were obvious women who appeared at family events, dressed for the occasion, performing warmth with the precision of a job interview. Some were subtle women who seemed entirely uninterested in his wealth but who, upon closer attention, were very carefully interested in his wealth. And some were the worst kind women who genuinely seemed to like him, but when he observed how they behaved when something better appeared in the room, he understood that him was never quite what they were attached to. So when his father, Chairman Kang Do-yoon, called him into his study one Tuesday morning and sat across from him with the specific expression that meant this is not a conversation, this is an announcement, Junho already knew what was coming. You need to find a woman. Father. The succession announcement will be made in 18 months. It will look better for you, for the company, for the shareholders if you have a partner. A serious one. I understand that. Do you? Because understanding it and doing something about it are 2 very different things, Junho. Junho had sat in that chair and looked at his father, a man he respected deeply and understood only partially, and thought about 17 different ways to explain what he was actually thinking. He chose none of them. I'll handle it. Good. He left the study with a plan already forming. Not his father's plan. His own. He called Tai that evening. Kim Tai was 24, had been Junho's personal guard for 2 years, and occupied a unique position in Junho's life, not quite a friend, not merely an employee, but something in the middle that neither of them had ever tried to define because defining it might make it strange. Tai was loyal in the specific way that some people are loyal not because they were told to be, but because they had simply decided to be, and that was that. He also had the particular gift of maintaining a completely straight face while thinking something was absolutely ridiculous. Junho explained the plan. Tai maintained his straight face for approximately 4 seconds. You want to dress like a broke person. I want to dress normally. Without markers. Sir. You own 4 watches that together cost more than most people's apartments. Which is why I won't be wearing any of them. And you want to go outside. Into Seoul. Looking like a regular person, Tai. And test women. And observe how women behave when there's nothing to gain from engaging with me. Yes. Tai looked at him for a long moment. Just you and me. Just you and me. Another long moment. I'll get the clothes. What Tai produced the next morning was, in Junho's opinion, a sincere effort. Plain dark hoodie. Simple jeans. Clean but clearly inexpensive sneakers. A basic cap. No jewelry. A cheap watch that Tai had apparently purchased specifically for this mission and seemed vaguely proud of. Junho changed. Stood in front of the mirror. Tai stood behind him, arms folded, studying the result with the expression of a man evaluating a project he'd been voluntold into. The face is still a problem, Tai said. What? You still look like you, sir. And you look like someone who, he paused diplomatically. Say it. Someone who is trying very hard to look like they don't have money, while still having a face that suggests otherwise. Junho considered this. He reached for the cap, pulled it lower. Added a pair of plain glasses, non-prescription, slightly oversized. Tai tilted his head. Better, Tai admitted. You look like a graduate student who is very tired. Perfect. They took a regular taxi. Tai had suggested this himself, and Junho had agreed, and then they had both sat in the back of a regular Seoul cab in silence for a moment processing the fact that this was happening. The first stop was a cafe in Sinchon. Junho sat alone at a corner table with a cheap coffee. Tai sat 3 tables away with his own coffee, phone in hand, pretending to scroll while watching everything with the peripheral alertness of someone trained to never fully relax in a public space. A woman at the next table glanced at Junho. She was pretty, early 20s, well-dressed. Their eyes met briefly. She smiled. He smiled back. She leaned slightly toward him. Are you a student around here? No, Junho said. I'm just, in between things right now. Job-wise. The smile didn't disappear immediately, but something behind it shifted. A small recalibration. Oh, she said. That's tough. The market is hard right now. It is. She nodded sympathetically, turned back to her phone, and did not look at him again. Across the cafe, Tai raised his coffee cup to his lips and said absolutely nothing, but his eyes communicated an entire paragraph. The park experiment 2 days later was more direct. A woman who had been walking a very small dog stopped near the bench where Junho was sitting. The dog investigated his sneakers. She apologized for the dog. He said it was fine. They talked for a few minutes. She was warm, funny, comfortable to speak to. Then she asked, in the casual way that isn't casual at all, what he did. I help out at my uncle's small shop. Deliveries, mostly. The warmth remained on her face but relocated somehow, moved from the space of possibility to the space of pleasant interaction with someone I will not think about after I leave this bench. That's nice, she said. Good exercise, I'd imagine. All that walking. Sure. She left shortly after. The small dog looked back at him once. Junho appreciated the dog's honesty. Tai appeared from behind a tree. He had been standing behind a tree, which was the most conspicuous possible way to be inconspicuous, and Junho had decided not to address this. Behind a tree, Tai. It offered good sightlines, sir. You looked like a person waiting to do something illegal. The mission required concealment. The mission required you to sit on a bench 20 meters away like a normal person. The bench was occupied. Junho looked at him. Tai looked back. Neither of them smiled, but it was close. The Pojangmaka test 3 days after that was the most memorable. A group of young women at the next table. Lively, loud in a good way, clearly comfortable with each other. One of them, confident, direct, the kind of person who decides things quickly, made eye contact with Junho and held it in the way that meant she was interested and didn't mind if he knew. They started talking. She was interesting. Junho found himself genuinely engaged, which made him pay closer attention. She asked for his number. He gave her a number, a secondary phone Tai had sourced for the experiment, because Tai had thought of everything and was clearly taking this more seriously than he let on. She texted within the hour. He replied. They exchanged a few messages. Then she asked, lightly, conversationally, not obviously, what kind of work he did, where he lived, what his situation was. He answered honestly within the experiment's rules. Basic job. Small place. Nothing impressive. The replies slowed. Then stopped. The next morning, Tai reviewed the phone with him. She's seen the messages, sir. No reply since 10:14 last night. Junho nodded once. Right. Tai set the phone down. There was a pause. For what it's worth, Tai said carefully, I think the experiment is proving your hypothesis. I know it is. So, what are you going to do? Keep going. A little longer. Tai nodded. And then, because he was Tai and they had been doing this for days and he was clearly carrying a commentary inside him that needed a small release. Sir. Don't. I just want to say, Tai, that watching you pretend to be broke is one of the most unusual experiences of my professional career. Junho said nothing. That's all. Thank you, sir. On Thursday evening, overcast, the kind of Seoul night that felt like it was gently suggesting you go somewhere warm. They were walking back through Hongdae after another unremarkable experiment, a coffee shop interaction that had lasted 12 minutes before interest dissolved, when Tai stopped walking. Junho took 2 more steps before he noticed. Tai. Tai was standing on the pavement with his chin slightly lifted, nostrils doing something that Junho could only describe as working. Do you smell that? Tai said. Junho paused. Breathed. He smelled it. Something warm and deep and completely out of place in this particular stretch of Hongdae rich seasoning, something slow-cooked, something that bypassed his brain entirely and spoke directly to a more fundamental part of him. It was the kind of smell that didn't ask if you were hungry. It simply told you that you were. Where is that coming from? Junho said. That way. Tai pointed toward a side alley slightly off the main road. I think. They followed it. Because there was genuinely no other option when a smell made that kind of argument. The alley was narrow and slightly unevenly lit, the kind of street that Seoul had dozens of overlooked by the main road, fully alive on its own terms. Halfway down it, warm light was pushing through a restaurant window. A hand-painted sign above the door. A chalkboard outside with a menu written in slightly uneven English, and below it, a smaller note in Korean explaining each dish. Junho stood on the pavement and read the menu. He had eaten in restaurants on 6 different continents. He had sat at tables where the waiting list was 3 months long and the portions were small enough to be insulting. He had had food prepared for him by people whose names appeared in international culinary publications. Nothing on this chalkboard sounded like anything he had encountered before. And somehow that made him more interested than anything on any of those other menus ever had. He pushed the door open. The inside was small 8 tables, maybe 10 at a push, mismatched chairs that somehow created an atmosphere instead of undermining one. Afrobeats playing from a Bluetooth speaker on the windowsill. The kind of speaker that had clearly been dropped at least once. 2 other customers at a table near the window, deep in conversation over their food. And behind the service counter, visible through the open kitchen hatch, her. Zara Collins. Moving through her kitchen with the ease of someone who had stopped thinking consciously about every step because her hands already knew. She was seasoning something and tasting it and adjusting and tasting again in one fluid sequence, and she hadn't looked up yet. Junho sat at a table near the middle. Tai came in behind him and took a table near the door, correctly this time, not behind anything, and opened his phone. A moment later, Zara appeared from the kitchen with a small notepad. She was wearing a dark apron, her hair tied back, and she had the particular expression of someone in the middle of 7 things who has just added one more. Hey. Welcome in. American accent. Warm without being performed. You need a minute with the menu or you ready? What's good? Junho asked. She looked at him with an expression that said this was a question she had an opinion about. Everything, she said. But if it's your first time here, get the braised short rib. It'll change something in you. She said the last part completely without irony. Like it was simply a fact. Okay, Junho said. That. Sides. Whatever you think. She nodded once and went back to her kitchen. Junho looked across the room at Tai, who was pretending to read something on his phone with the focus of a man trying not to appear as though he'd noticed anything. The food arrived 20 minutes later. Junho looked at the plate for a moment before he picked up his fork. Then he ate. He had no words for it that felt adequate. The short rib fell apart at the gentlest suggestion of a fork. The seasoning was layered in a way that revealed itself slowly. Up front it was one thing, then midway through the bite it became something else, and then at the end it left something warm and quiet behind that made you want another bite immediately. The sides, a scoop of something creamy and golden, greens cooked down in a way that made them feel substantial rather than apologetic, completed a plate that had no right to exist in a small Hongdae alley and yet was perhaps the most appropriate place in the world for it. Junho ate slowly. He wasn't performing slowness. He genuinely didn't want to rush it. At the table by the door, Tai had ordered something, taken one bite, and was now staring at his plate with an expression that Junho recognized as a man being sincerely surprised by his own enjoyment. When Zara came to clear the plates, Junho looked up at her. He paused, which was unusual for him. I don't have a word. You don't need one, she said simply, stacking the plates. Your face said it. She set down the bill, a small folded piece of paper. He opened it, looked at the number, and then did what he had come here to do. I'm sorry, he said. I don't have money on me today. Zara looked at him. Not with anger. Not with suspicion. She looked at him for a moment with a steadiness that made him feel, strangely, a little exposed. Okay, she said. Come back another time. She took the plates and walked back into her kitchen. Junho sat there for another moment. Then he stood, straightened his cap, and left. In the alley outside, Tai fell into step beside him. They walked in silence for a few seconds. Sir, Tai said. Don't. I wasn't going to say anything. You were going to say something. I was going to say, Tai said carefully, that I think we found the next experiment location. Junho said nothing. But he came back the next day. He came back 6 times over the next 9 days. Each time, the food was different. Each time, it was extraordinary. Each time, at the end, he said the same thing, I don't have money today, and each time, Zara looked at him with that same steady, unbothered expression and let him go. No lecture. No visible frustration. No okay, but you really need to sort this out. Just okay, and back to her kitchen. It was the most disorienting thing anyone had done to Junho in recent memory, and he had an excellent memory. On day 4, she sat briefly at the table across from him while the restaurant was quiet, not because she'd planned to, but because she'd been standing and it was a slow afternoon and sitting was easier. They talked. Not about anything significant. About Seoul weather, about a street food market she'd discovered in Mangwon, about whether the Bluetooth speaker was salvageable or whether she needed to accept its decline. You've had it a while? Junho asked. Brought it from home, she said. Atlanta. So yes. Your kind of songs, it's kinda cool, Junho said. Smiling. Oh it's Afrobeats, I'm like African American, she smiled back. You're far from home. She looked at the speaker for a moment. Yeah. I am. Then she stood and went back to her kitchen, and the way she said it, not sad, just honest, stayed with him longer than it should have. On day 6, Tai, waiting outside as usual, sent him a text while he was eating. Have you considered that you are no longer running an experiment? Junho looked at his phone. Put it face down on the table. Finished his food. Outside afterward, he said, "It's still an experiment, Tai." "Of course, sir," Tai said, in the tone of a man who believed the opposite completely. Day 9. The last day. Junho had already decided, before he walked in, that this was the final visit. The experiment was complete. He had what he came for: evidence, data, clarity. He knew what he was going to do next. He had already decided, in the way that people decide things when they've been slowly deciding them for days without admitting it. He ate. She brought him, without being asked, the same short rib as the first night. He thought about asking how she remembered but didn't, because he suspected he already knew the answer. She remembered everyone's first order. She was that kind of person. She brought the bill. He looked at it. Set it down. "I don't have." "Yeah," she said, reaching for the bill. "I know. Wait." She paused. Junho looked at her. "Why do you keep doing that?" "Doing what?" "Letting me go. Every time. Without paying. You're a business. This doesn't make sense." Zara looked at him for a moment. Not like she was thinking of what to say, more like she was deciding whether this question deserved the real answer or the easy one. She gave him the real one. "Food was never meant to be paid for," she said. "It was meant to fill the stomach when it's hungry. That was its only purpose. But then came scarcity, hardship, and greed. Survival divided the earth, and food became expensive." She said it the way people say things they've thought about privately for a long time, not rehearsed, just settled. Like it lived somewhere in her and she'd simply opened a door. Junho didn't speak. Something in his chest had shifted in a way he wasn't prepared to examine in public. He tried once more. "You'd still let me go today? Even knowing I'm going to walk out of here and you get nothing?" She picked up the bill. Folded it. Put it in her apron pocket. "You got something," she said. "You ate. You're full. That's what the food was for." A pause. "You still got nothing on you?" "Yeah." "Then yeah. Go." She walked back into her kitchen. The Bluetooth speaker played something slow and warm. The kitchen light caught the side of her face for a moment as she turned back to the stove. Junho stood up. Pushed his chair in carefully. Walked to the door. Outside in the alley, Tai was already there, hands in jacket pockets, reading nothing on his phone for once. He looked at Junho's face and asked nothing. They walked. Half a block in silence. Then Junho stopped. "Tai. Sir. I'm done. Done with the experiment." A pause. The kind that means more than the words that follow it. Done pretending. Tai nodded once. Slowly. And for a brief moment, brief enough that both of them could pretend it didn't happen, something on his face relaxed. Like a man who had been waiting for a conclusion he'd already seen coming. "I'll bring the car around tomorrow, sir," Tai said. "Yeah," Junho said. "Do that." He told his father on day 2. He sat across from Chairman Kang in the same study, in the same chair, and said it plainly. "I found someone." His father looked up from his desk. "Already? I've known her a little while. Who is her family?" "She doesn't have family here. She's African American." A pause. "Black American?" "Yes." "Junho." "Father." Junho said it quietly, but the weight in it was unmistakable. "I'm not asking for permission. I'm telling you because you asked me to find someone. I found someone. I'd like to go and get her properly. With the family present, if you want. Or not. But I'm going." Chairman Kang looked at his son for a long time. He was a man who had spent 40 years reading rooms and people, and what he read in his son's face right now was something he hadn't seen there before. Not infatuation. Not impulse. Certainty. He leaned back in his chair. "I'll send the convoy," he said. The 5 days were for preparation, the official kind. Not because Junho needed 5 days. He could have gone back the next morning in the same plain hoodie and told her everything. But this was the Kang family, and in the Kang family, certain things were done in certain ways, and Junho had chosen to honor that. Not for his father. For her. Because if he was going to ask Zara Collins to step into his world, he owed her the truth of what that world looked like. All of it. On the morning of day 5, he stood in front of his mirror again, the real mirror, in his real room, with his real wardrobe open behind him. Tai stood at the doorway. "Sir," he said. "You look like yourself." "That's the idea, Tai." "For what it's worth," Tai paused. "I think she'll be all right with it." Junho looked at him in the mirror. "How would you know?" "Because," Tai said carefully, "a woman who feeds a man for free 9 times without asking a single personal question about him is not a woman who was ever interested in what he had. She was just interested in what he needed in that moment." Junho held his gaze in the mirror for a second. Then he straightened his jacket. "Let's go." 3 black SUVs. 4 guards in full uniform. Tai in the front passenger seat. A family aide in the second vehicle with a gift. Chairman Kang had also sent his personal secretary as a representative because in the Kang family, you did not collect a future daughter-in-law without a family presence. Junho sat in the back of the lead car, watching Seoul move past the window. He was calm in the way that people are calm when they are close to something that matters, not relaxed, just still. They turned into Hongdae. Down the main road. Then Tai said, "Left here," and they turned into the alley. The convoy rolled to a stop. Junho looked through the windshield. Dark. Silent. The shop front stripped bare. No chalkboard outside. No warm light from the kitchen. No music. Tai. "Sir. What is this?" Tai was already out of the car. Junho stepped out behind him, not waiting for the guard who moved to open his door. He walked to the shop window. Pressed his hand flat against the cold glass. Nothing inside. The tables were gone. The mismatched chairs, gone. The chalkboard that had her slightly uneven handwriting on it, gone. The Bluetooth speaker that had survived a drop and 3 continents and countless evenings of Afrobeats played into a small Hongdae restaurant, gone. Empty. All of it. The family aide stepped out of the second car, gift in hand, looking uncertain. The guards stood in formation with no formation appropriate for this situation. The convoy that Chairman Kang had assembled, the full weight of the Kang family's intention, sat in a dark, quiet alley that had nothing to receive it. Junho turned. Found the landlord, Mr. Bae, standing near the building entrance, clearly having been there when the convoy arrived and now very much wishing he wasn't. "Where is she?" Mr. Bae blinked. "I'm sorry. The woman who ran this restaurant. Where is she?" Mr. Bae straightened slightly. "She's gone. She couldn't meet the rent. 3 months behind. I gave her adequate notice." "When?" "Excuse me? When did she leave?" 4 days ago. She packed her things and 4 days. The number landed in Junho's chest like something physical. He had spent 5 days preparing. She had been gone by day 4. 1 day, 1 single day of that preparation, and she had still been here. Did she say where she was going? No. She didn't say much at all. She just, Mr. B paused, something in his expression shifting slightly, not guilt exactly, but a cousin of it. She just packed. Thanked me. And left. Thanked him. She had packed everything she owned and been put out of the place she'd built from nothing, and she had thanked him. Something moved through Junho that he didn't have a name for. It lived between grief and urgency and something harder and colder that had to do with 5 wasted days and 1 lost one. He turned around. The convoy was behind him. The guards. The aide with the gift. Tai, standing closest, watching his face with the careful attention of someone ready to move the instant a direction was given. Junho looked at all of it. Then, "Find her." The words came out quieter than he intended. But Tai was already on his phone before the second word finished leaving his mouth. The family aide looked at the other guards. The guards looked at each other. Junho looked back at the empty window one more time. "Wherever you went, Zara Collins," he thought. "You don't know it yet. But I'm coming. My lovely viewers, and that is where we leave you today." Junho standing in an empty alley, 5 days too late, with a convoy that was built for a moment that disappeared. Zara, gone. No address. No forwarding. Just the memory of a girl who fed a billionaire for free and asked nothing in return. Where did she go? Will he find her? And when he does, what happens when she finds out who he really was the whole time? Episode 2 is coming, and trust me, you do not want to miss it. If this story moved you, gripped you, or had you feeling something, please like this video right now, share it with someone who needs a good story in their life, drop a comment telling me what you think is going to happen next, and subscribe so you're here when episode 2 drops. I'll see you then.